Switzerland means neutrality, watches, and banks. But 4 centuries ago, it meant something else entirely. Pike squares, mass graves, and soldiers for hire who terrified every army in Europe. This is the history they replaced with chocolate and alpine postcards. In the high valleys of Switzerland, survival was a calculation. The land gave little, thin soil, steep slopes, and harvests that rarely broke 400 kilograms of grain per hectare. A single family, 6 or 8 mouths, needed double that just to get by. After the last hay was cut, work vanished for half the year. The fields froze, but taxes and debts did not. Inheritance split every farm into smaller and smaller plots. By the time the youngest son came of age, there was nothing left to inherit but hunger. Cheese-making and weaving brought in scraps, never enough to cover the next levy. Remittance records show that money sent home from soldiers abroad paid off tax arrears and bought back lost land. Recruiters promised cash, sometimes triple what a farm could yield in a year. The Swiss mercenary was not a knight. He was a landless peasant, forced to turn violence into wages. This was not a life chosen for glory. It was a last resort, measured in coin, blood, and the hope of feeding a family through another winter. The Swiss Pike Square was not a display of chivalry. It was a tool built for survival. 10 to 12 ranks deep, each man stood shoulder to shoulder, packed 4 or 5 to a square meter. The pikes stretched 4 or 5 meters long, wooden shafts tipped with iron, heavy and unyielding. Every movement was drilled until it became reflex. Advance, brace, rotate. The front rank planted their pikes to the ground, creating a wall of points. The second rank lowered theirs to reinforce. When the front tired or fell, the next rank stepped forward, keeping the line unbroken. Halberdiers waited behind the pikes, ready to strike at any enemy who broke through. There was no room for individual heroics. Discipline and density made the formation deadly. The square did not rely on armor or noble blood. It relied on peasants moving as one, trained to kill efficiently. This was not glory, it was method. At Grandson, the Swiss moved fast and hit harder than anyone expected. On March 2nd, 1476, Charles the Bold's army outnumbered them by thousands. But numbers meant little when discipline broke. The Burgundian artillery, meant to smash the Swiss line, never fired a shot. The Swiss pike squares advanced through morning fog, overrunning the gun crews before a single cannon could be aimed. Panic spread as cavalry tried to regroup. The Swiss didn't chase glory, they pressed forward for survival and pay. The Burgundian camp fell in chaos. Chests of coin, banners, and weapons were abandoned as the Swiss kept moving. 3 months later at Merton, on June 22nd, the pattern repeated with more violence. Charles built earthworks and lined up his artillery, but the Swiss attacked before he was ready. Pike squares smashed through the Burgundian flank. The artillery was silenced in minutes. Infantry collapsed under the weight of the charge. Swiss halberds finished what the pikes started. The fields filled with bodies. Survivors fled or drowned trying to escape. Fear spread across Europe. The Swiss were no longer seen as desperate peasants. They were now the face of organized, mercenary slaughter. On January 5th, 1477, the fields outside Nancy froze beneath a sky heavy with snow. Charles the Bold, last Duke of Burgundy, led what remained of his army into the teeth of a Swiss pike square. The Swiss were not fighting for a cause. They fought for wages, cold, hard coin, earned by turning their bodies into a wall of spear points. Charles was cut down in the melee. His corpse lay stripped and half frozen, pierced by multiple wounds. No banner, no royal armor, only a battered body left in the mud. Burgundy collapsed within weeks. The French crown seized the western lands, the Habsburgs took the rest. The death of Charles erased a dynasty and left a power vacuum at the heart of Europe. Swiss mercenaries, once landless peasants, had broken a major state. The violence was total. Written chronicles gloss over the aftermath. The land itself kept the record. Bones, iron, and shattered weapons lay buried beneath the snow. For the Swiss, this was not chivalry, it was business, paid in blood. Excavations at Grandson and Merton unearthed more than 300 skeletons in mass graves. Radiocarbon dating places the burials in the winter of 1476. The bones tell a story, the chronicles soften, vertebrae punctured by iron points, ribs shattered by blunt trauma, clusters of wounds to the chest and pelvis, evidence of killing in close order with pikes and halberds, no sign of burial rites or careful placement, bodies dumped in pits, limbs tangled. The wounds are methodical, not random. This is not the aftermath of chivalry. It is the record of peasants, drilled for efficiency, turning the battlefield into a wage-earning slaughterhouse. The dead become the only witnesses left. After the carnage, the cantonal councils made a calculation. The mercenary trade, once a lifeline, became a liability. By the late 1400s, new laws cut the flow of men to foreign wars. Capitulation contracts dropped sharply. In 1515, the Confederation required unanimous consent for any soldier to serve abroad. The export of violence slowed. Watchmaking workshops multiplied in Geneva and Zurich. Banking houses opened in Basel. These new trades offered steady income without bloodshed. Cantonal elites rewrote the past, celebrating peace while erasing the memory of mass graves and foreign slaughter. What was once business became silence. Today, Swiss neutrality masks a legacy built on organized violence for hire. Behind the myth lies a truth. National identity can be shaped just as much by what we choose to forget.